Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bhakti Fundamentals. This past week, we were chatting with some family and friends. Some of them had just returned from a trip abroad and were seriously considering moving to a country where life seemed more peaceful to them, with more vacation time, less stress, better work-life balance, more happiness. And it got us all thinking. Would our happiness level really increase just by changing our location in this material world? And we concluded that perhaps, temporarily, it would. But as we'll explore today, without spiritual life, no happiness in the material world can last. The grass may look greener on the other side materially, but it always withers in time. Materially speaking, for everyone, there are really only three outcomes for things we try to achieve in life. 1, we try for something we desire, but we don't obtain it. A grade, the job we want, our med school of choice, less anxiety, and more time off from work, etc. 2, we attain something we want, a beautiful house abroad, for instance, but it's not all it's cracked up to be. Maybe the neighbors aren't nice. Maybe we miss being close to our family and friends. Maybe we have new allergies, etc. 3, we achieve something we want, and it seems perfect. But ultimately, we must relinquish it at the time of death for our bodies. These material outcomes shake us back to reality. Yes, relocating may bring us temporary relief, a quieter mode of goodness life, less work pressure, more time off from work, maybe even a safer environment, though we are warned in the scriptures that there is danger at every step in this material world. But here's the real question. What would we do with our time off, with our less stressed existence? If we used our time off for spiritual pursuits, then the move was totally worth it. However, if we don't use that time to explore spiritual life and we only use it for more material pursuits, then we've simply delayed the inevitable, meaning that when this lifetime ends, when our current body dies, then the material cycle of birth and death begins again. Another body, another lifetime, somewhere in this material world. And no one in this material world, no matter where we receive birth in it, can escape the 4 core miseries of material existence, which are birth, death, old age, and disease for our bodies. Unless we transcend material life and this material world altogether by cultivating spiritual life, there is no lasting solution to these 4 fundamental problems of material life. Srila Prabhupada writes in one of his purports or explanations to the Bhagavad-gītā, one should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of the unborn, the child's stay in the womb of the mother, its suffering, etc., are all very graphically described. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of sufferings, and they are also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. These should be discussed. And as far as disease and old age are concerned, everyone gets practical experience. No one wants to be diseased, and no one wants to become old, but there is no avoiding these. Unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distresses of birth, death, old age, and disease, there is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life. In other words, an honest reflection on these miseries of life in this material world should push us to seek something higher, the positive alternative to material life, which is spiritual life. The Supreme, Krishna, also speaks to the nature of this material world in the Gita. In chapter 8, verse 16, he says of the material world, "From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode never takes birth again." In this verse, Krishna is reminding us that no corner of the material world is free from suffering. Wherever we go, even to a higher planetary system, for instance, the problems of birth, death, old age, and disease still follow us. So whether we move to a new country, a safer town, or even a more luxurious planet in the material world, the material cycle of birth and death continues. Importantly, however, it's not that a solution does not exist. It's that all the solutions we've tried so far have been material. And material arrangements cannot solve the problems of material life. Only something transcendental to matter, spirit, can solve these problems, like the problem of repeated birth and death for our bodies, permanently. Thus, in the Bhagavad-gītā, we are taught not to seek permanent happiness from material things, as the nature of matter is to change, to always be in flux. In chapter 2 of the Gita, we hear that the happiness and distress of this material world are temporary states. Happiness will come to us unsought, and so will distress, but they'll leave of their own accord also. This spiritual knowledge frees us from the futile attempt to find permanent happiness materially, and opens up our time for spiritual pursuits, which provide lasting inner fulfillment and bliss. While matter is temporary, spirit is eternal. As spiritual beings, we are also eternal. And any spiritual progress we make in this lifetime is also eternal and will carry over to our next lifetime and destination. In the second chapter of the Gita, Krishna also declares, in this endeavor of spiritual life, bhakti yoga, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. While we cannot take our homes, iPhones, credit cards, or even our current body with us when it's time for us to depart from our bodies, we do take with us all of the spiritual advancement we have made in this lifetime. We may not remember our past lifetimes and the spiritual advancement we made during them, but Krishna, the Supreme, does. And as Paramatma, Krishna in our hearts reminds us of our past spiritual pursuits and desires. Thus, we find ourselves automatically attracted to spiritual endeavors again in our next lifetime. And one day, when we reach full spiritual realization, which is possible for us even in this one lifetime, we'll achieve a spiritual destination, the spiritual world, where happiness is also eternal. And having reached the spiritual world, we won't return to this temporary material world. Thus, the grass is indeed greener on the other side, but only on the spiritual side. Too often we place our hopes in material solutions, thinking that the next material action we take to improve our lives will finally make us permanently happy. But Srila Prabhupada warns us not to place our faith in the temporary, as at best it can only temporarily make our material lives appear easier. The grass really isn't green anywhere in the material world. To this point, Srila Prabhupada writes, this world of Maya, material illusion, is called Durashraya, which means false or bad shelter. One who puts his faith in Durashraya becomes a candidate for hoping against hope. In the material world, everyone is trying to become happy, And although their material attempts are baffled in every way due to their nescience, ignorance of spiritual truths, they cannot understand their mistakes. People try to rectify one mistake by making another mistake. This is the way of the struggle for existence in the material world. Thus, material life can only offer us false hope. We keep searching for happiness in all the wrong places. But spiritual life offers us real hope and real shelter. In the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna urges us to follow the spiritual path of Bhakti Yoga to transcend this material world of suffering. As we discussed earlier, he assures us that even a little progress on the spiritual path brings permanent results. And this is because spiritual advancement accumulates over time, even across lifetimes. The spiritual progress you make from even 10 minutes a day of chanting the Maha Mantra or 15 minutes a night of reading the Bhagavad-gītā never leaves you. Unlike our material achievements and possessions, which we inevitably leave behind when this body ends, spiritual progress stays with us eternally. Spiritual life is something we can depend on. It offers us real, permanent shelter. So why not take it? So that's all we have for today on the topic of the grass is greener material illusion. Let us know if you have any questions that we can answer in future sessions. In the meantime, thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next time on Bhakti Fundamentals.